Nobody knew what to expect from this fight. Sebastian Fundora, one of the tallest, most unorthodox fighters in boxing, and across from him, Keith Thurman, a former champion trying to prove he's still elite. Experience versus pressure, power versus volume. For some, this was Thurman's a chance to return. For others, it was Fundora's moment to take over the division. But when the bell rang, it wasn't just a fight. It was a clash of styles that immediately turned into a war. And very quickly, it became clear. Only one of them was leaving with momentum. Round 1. The opening bell had barely finished echoing through the arena when Sebastian Fundora made his intentions clear. He wasn't interested in a cautious start. He wasn't interested in downloading information. He came to dominate. Within the first minute, Fundora began pumping his jab relentlessly, forcing Keith Thurman to react rather than initiate. Every time Thurman tried stepping inside, another jab met him first. Then came the moment that changed the atmosphere. Fundora landed a heavy shot that visibly shook Thurman and forced him to retreat. The crowd immediately erupted. Suddenly, the former unified champion looked uncomfortable. Thurman attempted to respond with quick combinations, but the difference in reach was becoming obvious. Fundora seemed to touch him whenever he wanted. By the final minute of the round, Thurman was already searching for answers, while Fundora looked completely relaxed. The champion had made a statement. Round 2. Round 2 became a nightmare for Keith Thurman. Every adjustment he attempted was met by another problem. When he stayed outside, Fundora's jab controlled him. When he tried entering range, Fundora tied him up or landed first. The champion's size became the defining factor of the fight. Thurman was forced to take risks simply to get close enough to punch. Midway through the round, Fundora began mixing straight left hands behind the jab and repeatedly caught Thurman as he entered. The former champion still showed flashes of speed, but every success came at a cost. Fundora's volume never stopped. The pressure never stopped. And by the end of the round, swelling had already started appearing on Thurman's face. The fight was moving in one direction. Round 3. By round 3, Fundora looked completely in control. The confidence in his body language was impossible to miss. He stood tall in the center of the ring and forced Thurman to work harder for every exchange. Thurman continued trying to find openings with quick counters and explosive combinations. But Fundora's activity overwhelmed him. Jab, left hand, jab, uppercut. The punches weren't always devastating individually, but together they created constant pressure. Every minute became more difficult for Thurman. The crowd sensed it. The commentators sensed it. Even Thurman's corner began showing concern. Fundora wasn't simply winning rounds anymore. He was breaking the veteran down physically. Round 4. Round 4 may have been the most one-sided round of the entire fight. Fundora completely controlled distance, completely controlled pace, completely controlled momentum. Thurman still fought with heart. He continued moving forward and searching for opportunities, but almost every exchange ended the same way. Fundora landing first. Fundora landing last. A series of clean shots near the ropes visibly damaged Thurman's face and forced him into survival mode. Blood became noticeable. The crowd grew louder with every combination. For the first time all night, it looked like Thurman was questioning whether he could change the fight. Meanwhile, Fundora appeared stronger with every passing minute. Round 5. Round 5 felt like desperation. Thurman knew he was losing. He knew he needed something significant, and because of that, he became more aggressive. But aggression created openings. Fundora immediately took advantage. Every wild attack from Thurman was punished by clean counters. The damage on Thurman's face became severe. His movement slowed. His reaction slowed. Yet somehow he kept fighting. That determination earned respect from everyone watching. But respect wasn't enough to stop the momentum. Fundora landed some of the hardest combinations of the fight during the second half of the round. And by the time the bell sounded, it was becoming difficult to imagine a path to victory for Thurman. The champion smelled the finish. Round 6. Entering round 6, the situation was becoming critical for Keith Thurman. He was behind on the cards, he was badly damaged, and he needed a miracle. Knowing this, Thurman came out aggressively. He threw with urgency. He chased exchanges. He searched desperately for one fight-changing punch. But desperation played directly into Fundora's hands. The champion remained composed, calm, clinical. As Thurman rushed forward, Fundora unleashed another brutal combination. Punches landed clean. The veteran's defense began falling apart. The referee watched closely. The crowd rose to its feet, and moments later, the official stepped between them. The fight was over. Sebastian Fundora had completely dismantled one of the biggest names of the previous generation, not only retaining his title, but handing Keith Thurman the first stoppage loss of his entire professional career. But the victory itself wasn't the biggest story. The biggest story was what it meant for Sebastian Fundora's future. For years, critics questioned whether his style could survive against elite competition. At 6'6", Fundora fights unlike any champion in modern boxing. Instead of using his height defensively, he willingly stands in range and trades punches. It's exciting, it's entertaining, but many believed it would eventually cost him. Yet against Keith Thurman, Fundora looked more complete than ever before. More patient, more disciplined, more dangerous. And perhaps for the first time in his career, he didn't look like a fighter with potential. He looked like an established champion. On the other side of the ring, the loss raised difficult questions about Keith Thurman's future. There was a time when Thurman stood at the top of the welterweight division. One time, undefeated, avoided by many fighters, feared by nearly everyone. But boxing changes quickly. Years of inactivity, injuries, long layoffs, eventually they catch up to every fighter. And against Fundora, Thurman looked like a man fighting against time itself. The heart was still there, the courage was still there, but the speed, the reactions, the explosiveness that once made him special simply weren't the same. And that's what made the results so emotional. What happens next for Fundora? But perhaps the most interesting part of this story begins after the final bell. Because this victory wasn't just about defending a title. It was about sending a message. A message to every fighter in the division. For years, Sebastian Fundora was viewed as one of boxing's most unique champions. Standing over 6.5 feet tall, he looked different from everyone else. He fought differently. He took risks that most trainers would never recommend. And because of that, opinions about him were always divided. Some fans believed he had all the tools to become one of the biggest stars in boxing. Others believed his aggressive style would eventually cost him against elite opposition. But on this night, Fundora answered many of those questions. He didn't simply win. He controlled the fight. He remained composed under pressure. He stayed disciplined. And most importantly, he showed that he can make adjustments against experienced opponents. That is what separates good champions from great champions. Now the conversation changes completely. The boxing world isn't asking whether Fundora belongs among the elite anymore. Instead, people are asking who can stop him. Bigger fights suddenly feel inevitable. Bigger paydays, bigger arenas, bigger opportunities. Every champion reaches a moment when they stop being a contender and become the target. This victory may have been that moment for Sebastian Fundora, because once you defeat a former champion in dominant fashion, expectations become much higher. Every performance gets analyzed more closely. Every future opponent studies your weaknesses. Every victory carries more pressure. And yet, based on what we witnessed tonight, Fundora appears ready for that challenge. The confidence, the patience, the composure. All of it looked like the work of a fighter entering his prime years. That's what makes this performance so important. It wasn't just another title defense. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where Sebastian Fundora is no longer chasing recognition. He's chasing legacy. And if he continues performing at this level, the biggest fights in boxing may be waiting just around the corner. Because performances like this don't just win championships, they create stars. And after what happened tonight, Sebastian Fundora looks closer than ever to to becoming one of the faces of the sport.